Since 2007, Buying Time has supported entrepreneurs and therapists on their admin, marketing, and bookkeeping needs, and so much more. Check out their free Buying Time Systems Inventory Checklist to uncover hidden expenses and optimize spending in your practice. Find that at buyingtimellc.com/MTSG.
Therapists, with summer around the corner and kids on vacation, clients may have more time to level up on therapy. If you want to make therapy more accessible for them without compromising on your full private pay rate, you'll want to check out Thrizer. They make the out-of-network process so much easier. No more super bills, no more insurance calls, and best of all, no more months-long reimbursement waits. Go to join.thrizer.com/modern therapist to learn more.
You're listening to the Modern Therapist Survival Guide, where therapists live, breathe, and practice as human beings. To support you as a whole person and a therapist, here are your hosts, Kurt Widhelm and Katie Vernoy.
Welcome back, Modern Therapists. This is the Modern Therapist Survival Guide. I'm Kurt Widhelm with Katie Vernoy, and this is the podcast for therapists about the things that go on in our field, the things that go on in our practices. And we've been hearing from a lot of people in the therapist community, some of our listeners saying, hey, are you running into the same problems that we are? It seems like we are receiving less inquiries into our practice. The referrals seem to be going away. And we wanted to spend some time talking about what might be contributing to that and maybe walking through this episode with some practical advice beyond just kind of lamenting, no, your referral sources haven't just decided to ghost you. So, Katie, just from the start of the episode, and I'll kind of reflect on my practice here just a little bit when you answer your question, but have you run into the same problem that many other people are saying, that I used to get 10 inquiries a week, now I'm lucky if I get 2?
I never have had a practice where I get 10 inquiries a week. I have, chronic medical stuff. I've got some other things. So I purposely keep my practice smaller. And right now I'm actually full, so I'm not having to face that question. I don't know that I'm seeing fewer referrals. What I am seeing are clients who are needing potentially a fee reduction, clients who are, shifting the cadence of their sessions. Some are actually increasing because of what they're going through, and I think in the background, the chaos of what's happening. But there are some that have decided to decrease or finish treatment, partly I think because of what's going on economically. So I guess my answer is things are mixed, but I do have some ideas for folks who have fewer referrals, because I've had some moves that I've made recently that I think have helped to keep my practice full even during this time. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. I also want to make sure in this episode that we're talking about just the shifting business landscape overall, and some things I think are wise to do right now, even if it's separate from the referral issue. So I think let's start here, but I want to make sure that we touch on a lot of different things, because so much I feel like is possible right now and is potentially shifting. And so a lot of folks, I think, started their practices when everything was online. There was a huge upswell of need and time and potentially reserved financial resources because folks were in lockdown during the pandemic. And so I think that this is a very big shift back to, I think, probably more like when you started your private practice, where the economy was kind of all over the place.
In the middle of the Great Recession when I started my private practice. Yes.
Yeah.
Back to those days.
Back in those days.
I think much like you, I, for my personal caseload, have not seen a shift in the number of inquiries to me. I've noticed it with some of the newer therapists in my practice, especially some of the associates that work for me. So I think at that level, there is definitely a lot of economic stress that you're referring to, that things have drastically changed here at the beginning of 2025. And we have done episodes in the past about recession proofing your practice, that when you're starting in the middle of a recession or a recession is about to be acknowledged, that it's very hard to have done all of the prep work when you're first getting started out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we'll link to some of those other episodes in our show notes, but just briefly in talking about some of the bullet points around that is needing to be more flexible in how you work with, especially cash pay clients, when it comes to their ability to afford coming into therapy. It might be working on a reduced frequency. It might be being more flexible with what your per session fee is in order to be able to help them. If it means getting people regularly in, might be at a lower hourly price, but it might be better for your practice and your treatment overall by sliding your scale down a little bit for those clients.
And I think that the zeitgeist during the high times that we recently experienced, I think largely went to charge a very high fee, hold strong, do not slide your fee, because that is somehow, I mean, at some points it even felt like a moral failing if you lower your fee. And I think the nuance of the conversation that was missing at that time, clients have value in a lot of different ways. And I hate the sound of this because it sounds so mercenary, but yes, per hour fee, like what's your average fee, the number of client sessions you have, and you divide the number, the total amount of money that you make for the month, and you divide it by that number. You want that to be as high as possible or as close as possible to the number that will get you what you need for to live, to have the profit you want, those kinds of things. And there is a lot of resource and time that goes into getting new clients. There is also the hard facts that even if you have a very high per session fee, if you only have a few sessions, you're still making a whole lot less. And so when we look at what do I need to make per month and how do I want to make sure that I'm keeping the clients I have, because it's a lot cheaper to keep clients than to try to find new clients. I think the sliding fee makes a bit more sense, even in a business status. And certainly, I think oftentimes it makes sense clinically for folks who truly need a reduced fee and want to be coming weekly or every other week, and shifting your fee to help them afford that provides clinical opportunity. And it also makes business sense, even though I think that goes against what folks have been saying for the past few years.
I went to grad school. I started grad school around 2005. And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, ended up starting my practice kind of Great Recession era. And one of the big things that was happening then, it continues to happen now. It feels like a lot of success has happened now, is our profession's efforts to get the public to embrace therapy. Hey, we need more people to come to therapy. We need more people to come in. And that really seemed to be something where a lot of the barriers to getting into therapy during COVID and the immediacy afterwards, where people weren't spending their time commuting, they could telehealth in. That this is where I had non-therapist friends sending me memes from The Onion that said, therapist knows this whole gravy train of clients ends the second the vaccine's announced. And and it feels like there is kind of some truth to that, that as people have integrated back into more or less I hate to use the word regular because it doesn't seem to
It does
apply,
not fit for right now, but I know what you mean. Regular lifestyle, right?
that some of the ease of getting into therapy, even with such options as online therapy, that there's more competition for more people's time now. So if you're somebody who was starting out your practice in 2020, 2021, that was not normal. That was not
No.
normal, folks, as far as the number of people coming in. But I think that this also segues into the next point, is that there is a lot more competition in just the virtual space of doing online therapy with people. And we've talked about this in our long in the past therapy reimagined conference presentations and some of our previous podcasts around my practice made a very strong shift into we're going to focus on people who want to be seen in person. We'll see the people who also want to be seen online. We think that we can benefit in that space, but I'm really only competing with the people who are in my building and down the street for clients, where if you're working online, you're competing with everybody whose jurisdiction is the same as yours.
And with the interstate compacts and the ability to get some practicing privileges in other states, we've got folks all over the country potentially who are vying for clients within the same jurisdiction. When you hire Buying Time, you get an entire team of accountable, knowledgeable virtual assistants with different specialties. It's a pretty amazing one-stop shop for your business needs. And I should know, I've been a happy customer of Buying Time since 2015. Buying Time has helped me and other therapists with admin and client customer service, finances and bookkeeping, including sending out invoices and super bills, setting up automated systems to take care of clients during onboarding, marketing, including websites, social media, blogs, and newsletters, and a whole lot more.
Buying Time believes in streamlining, efficiency, and being cost effective. So they help you to regularly evaluate systems to make sure you're not paying for programs and platforms you don't need. And they've put together a free systems inventory checklist to help all of us to uncover hidden expenses and optimize spending in your practice. Go to buyingtimellc.com/MTSG to get your free checklist now.
I want to add on to your point about being in person. I actually really like being in person. I think probably at least half of my practice is in person, in addition to the ones who come in or I see virtually. And so the flexibility that I think being able to offer that feels more important now than ever. If someone wants to be able to see you virtually or in person, I added some walk and talk. There's other folks who do intensives in addition to their regular sessions. I think you do that, right, with the EMDR stuff?
Yes.
And so having a flexible entry point with clients so that they get what they need. And we talked about this in, I think the episode's called Beyond Reimagination, and talking through how to make your practice more flexible. The point I'm trying to make is if we are rigidly only providing telehealth therapy for specific lengths of time, I have half sessions, full sessions, coaching calls, and at times intensives. I'm not doing those yet, but I'm interested in looking into them. If we're only doing 1 hour once a week or 50 minutes once a week telehealth, we will get clients, but there are clients who want some different flexibility and who also want to be able to be seen in person. And so, yes, you decrease your competition if you go in person because it's only the folks who are local who can see people in person, but you also decrease your competition if you differentiate how you offer services. And some of that is the flexibility I was just talking about, but you also, with your practice, went into DBT and EMDR and some other elements that are, I think, pretty, not even recession proof. I think they're AI proof that provide additional possibility for folks who want to come in to be seen in a practice.
And that was a very intentional choice that we made in our practice. And you and I were talking about that in our Therapy Reimagined 2021 conference.
Yeah.
That with everybody at that time saying AI is not going to be a thing, some of these online platforms, okay, but I'm special. I'm going to be very specialized in what I do, but I'm going to do it online and I'm going to do it on my schedule. And you and I had talked about this in our presentation at that time, that was be really good at what you do, be flexible to the clients like you're just describing. And this is what 5 years of work has led to, as far as our practice not necessarily seeing huge dips in inquiries at this time, but it's being able to make yourself really be in the work to make yourself stand out. And I think that that's the part of the competition with some of the AI, some of the online stuff is that if things have always been easy and this is your first rodeo of really having to compete against advertising with everybody else, you've got to put in the work to be able to actually now stand out. The field is more crowded. The online platforms are not as easy. There's more people and companies on psychology today. Rula is managing a lot of people's profiles and practices, and they're putting up people's pictures and then saying, "Oh, you reached out to this one. They're not available for sessions, but we've got other people in our network." And is it icky and unfair and everything else? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's also happening.
Yeah.
And the things that you can do are to really develop yourself to kind of make it to where you're competition proof in some of these ways. And it might mean doing something like I did with my practice, which is working with very specialized, very complex presentations. We talk a lot in our treatment team meetings around there is a lot of work that we have to do in sessions, and we all love the work that we do, but it is compared to some of the worried well clients that come in, they're sessions that involve 50 minutes of work. It's not just kind of sitting down and listening to people talk, but it's a lot of very engaged work, and it's tiring.
Oh, yeah.
And our business is stable.
Yeah. I have a different practice than you, and I've found some similar success because I think I have also helped myself to stand out. And I don't work with the worried well, but I don't work with the very high intensity, complex presentations that you do. I stand out based on niche and authority. And a lot of the times, the folks I'm working with are people who are referrals from my network. They are potentially related to the career work I do or the referrals that I get from attorneys. And so my jumping off point that sometimes helps me get clients that others don't, I'm willing to write reports for court. I'm willing to sit with people that have high intensity jobs, high influence, and hold my own with them. And I think that's where a lot of folks sometimes get imposter syndrome, those types of things. And so to me, I think if you're looking to stand out as you are and be able to express that either online, through marketing, through your website, or truly in person with referral partners if you're going to be having an in-person practice.
I want to highlight something that you're saying here. And you use the word willing. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm seeing in some of these musings. I want to use this as a positive word here. Some of these musings about the state of where referrals are. But one of the things that I have found from successful practitioners is being willing to make changes, being willing to offer more evening or weekend clients, or being willing to expand into a new area of your practice that makes your practice more robust and adding to what you're doing. And I think some of these musings are trying to do more of the same. It's not evolving as a practice that is something that makes it to where we have to adapt. And I think that those of us who had practices well before the pandemic recognized, okay, we're adapting into the pandemic. And it's a skill set and a long term kind of idea that does make it to where there's nothing static about what we do. And things are going to continue to change. And if you can embrace that, that's where this willingness to add something new into your practice really does benefit you.
And I think the idea of willingness is a good one, and I'm already hearing in my head some of the objections that I've heard in other musings around what if you have X or Y going on? And for me, one of the ones that really comes up that resonates and feels very valid is the idea of chronic illness or neurodivergence or those types of things when therapists are
Or
facing.
the other chronic illness, which is having children.
Very true, very true. But I think the idea that if I have chronic illness or neurodivergence or those types of things, I may not be able to do what you're talking about, Kurt. I think through the way that we had Daniela Paoloni come on and talk about chronic illness, and potentially we'll have someone come on again soon because that was quite a while ago. But that is the way that her practice was able to survive was she works with other folks with chronic illness and she's very flexible and her clients are flexible with her. And so it's something where digging deeply into who you are and providing the flexibility that clients potentially like you might need helps to solve some of those problems. Because I think too many folks get either tied to some rigidity, only a 24-hour or 48-hour or 36-hour or 72-hour cancellation policy. There's if somebody says they're gonna be telehealth or in person, if they do the opposite, then it's a cancellation, it's not a whatever. And there's a lot of us who need that flexibility, both for ourselves and for our clients. And so being able to have that willingness to have a schedule that's a little bit messier, a little bit more reschedules without charging, those types of things may also be a way to stand out that allows for you to have a practice that works. Virtual and flexible scheduling is great for folks with chronic illnesses and or kids. And so leaning into that isn't bad. I think there are definitely still limitations that keep people from being able to have as full of practices as they would like because of these other limitations or other responsibilities. But I don't feel like there's no hope. I feel like there are a lot of ways that we can build practices for ourselves in order to meet the moment and take care of our own financial needs. Obviously not talking for everybody, but I think a lot of us have things that we can do if we're willing to lean into them. I think there's a lot of folks who created online practices for the worried well, and if AI or someone making a couple of bucks on a insurance platform or a large group platform, if they can do what you do, that competition is going to be really hard to face.
Therapists, are you providing super bills to your clients? The bad news is 5 in 10 clients don't submit them, which means they are leaving thousands of dollars on the table. The good news is there is a solution. Thrizer. Thrizer helps clients automatically tap into their out-of-network benefits without the hassles of super bills, insurance calls, and even months-long reimbursement waits. With Thrizer, clients get instantly reimbursed for out-of-network sessions, all while you get your full private pay rate up front too. Here's how. First, clients verify their out-of-network coverage with Thrizer's free benefits calculator. Then, Thrizer takes care of submitting claims and dealing with all the insurance stress.
But what truly sets them apart is Thrizer Pay, the option for clients to just pay a copay for sessions instead of waiting 6+ weeks for a reimbursement check. They even cover the rest of the therapist's rate to make you whole up front, and then wait for reimbursement on the client's behalf. This isn't too good to be true. Thousands of clients and clinicians are already using Thrizer to make the therapy process more seamless and accessible. Check them out at join.thrizer.com/modern therapist or use the code modern therapist for a free special offer.
Katie has made it known on the podcast several times over, including in this episode, her feelings about the size of the caseload that I carry.
Yeah, your
And
caseload is way too big.
some of the things that have really worked for me is even when my caseload is full. I have taken advice that Casey Truffaut, who's been around for a very long time about building private practices, some of the advice that I had read from some of her writings back when I was first getting started out is no matter how busy you are, continue to look for where your next 5 clients are coming from. And I think that that has been something that has served me well is no matter how full Katie feels that my caseload is, part of being able to really make it to where the ebbs and flows are a little bit less risky is continuing to put in the work to craft and grow your business. And while I imagine many of the people with the musings are not having full-time caseloads where they're actively working on building waiting lists or building referrals within their group practice like I am. But it is something where the focus on the business aspects of your business is continuing to evolve, knowing some of the trends, knowing how SEO changes are going to affect you, doing some of the research into what is actually working within my marketing plan. If I'm seeing that, hey, the number of inquiries into my Psychology Today profile is going down, evaluating, is that the one that I should be relying on, or do I need to be doing other things?
Well, and I think online marketing is it's tough because SEO, Google Ads, those types of things were really great for folks who wanted to focus on online marketing. But as we've mentioned here and elsewhere, we don't have the marketing budgets to be able to compete with BetterHelp and Grow and Alma and all of those. And so trying to get a big enough bump beyond those things, either you have to throw a lot of money at it. There are potentially some different mechanisms to optimize keywords. Potentially it's differentiation, things that those folks are not marketing, although they constantly change and maybe they're going to be marketing, psychedelics or other things that we haven't thought of yet to counteract. But the other thing too, when you were talking about the business elements of it, there's another strategy that we haven't even mentioned, and that is assessing and addressing your expenses, whether it's time or money expenses, because oftentimes people will spend a whole bunch of money on their Psychology Today profile or on one of the other things, and they don't take the time just to go out to coffee with a colleague. And so the money spent on that $5 cup of coffee, or depending where you go, that $10 or $2 cup of coffee.
Who's your $2 coffee guy?
I'm thinking middle America, but that maybe I'm wrong. And then there's the $30 a month for these directories. Are they worth it? Probably, but you have to assess that. There's also different things that I've done to try to streamline my documentation. There's things that I've done to try to decrease costs that don't make sense. It's a comprehensive look at how your business is working because things continue to ebb and flow. Are you spending a whole bunch of money on SEO or on Google AdWords? And are they actually bearing fruit, or are you just getting almost to the point that you're competing with the really large VC-backed companies? And so to me, assessing all of your expenses is another way to make your business sustainable in the current market, because you may have less revenue, but that does not mean that you have to have significantly less profit.
Really competition is what we're talking about. There is a lot more providers now than there have been 5 years ago. And it's testament to some of the efforts that we were putting in 20 years ago as far as saying more people should be therapists. There should be more therapists. Well, careful what we wish for, I guess, is what it comes down to in the practice competition space. But really with some of the online stuff, what you're describing is it's a David versus Goliath issue when it
Sure.
comes to some of the VC-backed companies having the marketing budgets of a small nation someplace that goes against your worries of, oh, it's costing me $30 or $50 a new client to be able to come in, as well as looking at a lot of the established practices that have been out there and are maybe in a more privileged starting place as far as being able to weather some of the tougher changes that go on when the economy goes sideways and upside down and then back up and sideways again. And that's just a Tuesday in 2025 America.
Yes.
But I think the takeaway that I want to give is that this is where we have to continue to evaluate what's working and then make shifts. And it's not a set it and forget it type profession. That there's a lot of things that we can do. We can specialize and we can focus, and that helps. And it helps. And that might be 4% help, but you have to be able to let go of the things that used to work and continuously look at what you're doing with fresh eyes and be willing to let go of your creature comforts in order to actually run a business.
And just remembering that your competition is not only or not really other therapists. It's these big VC-backed companies, it's AI therapists, it's, other types of chatbots, self-help chatbots, and coaches. And so I haven't done this assessment as recently, but I found that by and large, my referrals are more from other therapists than other types of professionals. Now, I do get a lot of referrals from other professionals and other opportunities. But coming together as a community and identifying how do we work together? How do we help those referrals keep flowing? How do we specialize? How do we meet the needs of our communities? Those things are all really important. And isolating at home behind your computer isn't going to necessarily take you the full distance. And whether that network is virtual or in person, I think we have to grow our networks at this point. There's no other way, I think, for therapists to really sustain. So it does not have to be an in-person, get out and go put on pants and grab a coffee. It can be virtual, but you have to have a network at this point.
We would love to hear your thoughts on what's working for you. Also, your thoughts on the show. And some of the best places to do that is follow us on our social media, comment, give us feedback, follow us in our Facebook group, the Modern Therapist Group, to continue on with this and other conversations. You can find our show notes over at mtsgpodcast.com. And until next time, I'm Kurt Whithelm with Katie Vernoy. Buying Time is a full-service virtual support agency that is standing by to support you in your practice. It's time for you to get out of the day-to-day and bring in someone you can trust who has the experience to help you with all of your business needs. And don't forget to go to buyingtimellc.com/MTSG for your free systems inventory checklist to get on the path to less expenses and more profit.
Remember to automate superbilling with Thrizer. Clients just pay a copay for your sessions while you earn your full private pay rate. Transform the entire process for your out-of-network clients. No more superbills, no more reimbursement calls, and the best part, no more reimbursement waits. Grab our exclusive Thrizer free trial at join.thrizer.com/modern therapist or sign up with the code Modern Therapists.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Therapist Survival Guide. Learn more about who we are and what we do at mtsgpodcast.com. You can also join us on Facebook and Twitter. And please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes.